college football has kind of found its way in many different ways so far for me in this time off that I would say. When college football you think is, we just wait till summertime before it starts to heat up. But news has been trickling out. And this Jaden Rashada situation, quarterback now at the University of Georgia, started off in Miami, then decommitted, then he goes to Florida, and then something at Florida happened in which he had to go. But I can lay it out for you, but I got some help in doing that too. Ross Dellenger is my guy from Yahoo Sports, college football writer, a great follow on Twitter, by the way. If you want news about college football, trust me, he's the guy to follow. And Ross, I want to start here. Kind of take me through this Jaden Rashada, timeline to speak. All I know, there's NIL, there was 13 million promised, there were payments that were promised, and those payments never happened. He decommitted, goes to Arizona State, plays a year, and now he'll be enrolled in the backup quarterback at the University of Georgia. Man, please help me kind of digest what's been going on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we could have a Georgia quarterback suing, or I guess we do have it, right? A Georgia quarterback is suing the head coach at Florida, his main rival. Probably indicative of the situation that college athletics is in right now. It's in an interesting, strange place. And about 3 years ago, the NCAA, of course, lifted its rules, allowing players to earn compensation on their name, image, and likeness, and that opened up boosters and booster-led collectives, like groups of boosters, basically funding football teams and paying for recruits under the guise of NIL. And this is what happened with Jaden Rashada, except his payments never went through, right? He was promised over $13 million by the Florida collective, booster collective, specifically from one booster, was going to fund much of that. And basically, before he signed, the payments didn't arrive. Only one payment, I think a portion of the money arrived, and then the Gator collective canceled basically the contract. But just got rid of it within a few weeks of the agreement. So that kind of started this spiral. But Florida obviously still wanted to keep Jaden Rashada, right? He was a highly ranked quarterback. And so apparently, according to the lawsuit that was filed, Billy Napier, the Florida head coach, promised Jaden Rashada at least $1 million of that $13 million, at least $1 million on signing day, I believe, to sign with the Gators. He did, right? And then he got out of it, obviously, transferred to Arizona State, and then transferred back east, as we know, to Georgia. So kind of a crazy confluence of events there, but no surprise with the lack of rules around NIL that we have broken promises and unfulfilled contracts in the world of this booster-led NIL world. And it happens a lot. Jaden Rashada's was one of the more public ones.
Ross, the big question here is, was there a signed agreement or was this a handshake agreement? And is this also a cautionary tale in the NIL space, especially with college basketball? Obviously, football is a monster of its own, but it's one thing to sign a contract and have an NIL contract made out that has to be fulfilled versus a sort of handshake, wink, wink kind of agreement where a lot of these guys who enter a transfer portal don't visit, it's all about phone calls and they go sight unseen. Is this what you're talking about in terms of the NCAA has to find some kind of groundwork so that this doesn't happen to other athletes?
Right. Yeah. And we've seen it now for 3 years. The broken promises, the unfulfilled contracts. I think, the contract with the Gator Collective, I think is in the lawsuit there, and it was a contract. It was in paper. And a lot of these are, but they still get broken, and they don't become as public as this one has become, especially now with the lawsuit. we're seeing kind of how they often they play out. And I think the NCAA is in college athletics in general is making strides into preventing these things from happening. One of the ways they're doing that, obviously, right now in the news, is the settlement of a bunch of antitrust cases that will create a new model for college athletics moving forward, which they hope will prevent a lot of these things that have happened to probably hundreds of players, including Jaden Rashada.
Yeah, you mentioned it, right? Talking with Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports college football writer, these antitrust lawsuits that are going on right now. I'm seeing conferences who are agreeing to the payout, but where's the money go? Is it going to the players? Is it going back to the institutions? What is this payout from these antitrust lawsuits that have been going on? I'm trying to keep up, Ross, and I'm like, does this involve the players or no?
Yeah. It definitely involves the players, and it is complicated. The settlement, and it should be finalized by the end of the week, by Friday. I say a portion of it should be finalized. At least the NCAA and the Power 5 conferences, which are the 6 defendants in the case, they will have authorized the settlement by Friday. It's got a long way before it's actually finalized. But the settlement right now, according to documents of sources who are knowledgeable about it, will include kind of 3 parts. So the first part is the back damages to athletes owed NIL payments before NIL was implemented. They're 4 years before NIL, 4 years before athletes could earn compensation from their NIL. Those athletes, around 12, 15,000 of them is the estimate, will be distributed $2.8 billion. That's the back damage and settlement to those athletes. So that's the first part of the settlement. The second part of the settlement is kind of the forward-thinking part, where schools will be permitted, not required, but permitted to share revenue with athletes. We don't know exactly the specific amount, but it'll probably be around $20 to $21, $22 million a year per school can share with athletes. It's kind of like there's a salary cap that'll be put on that of around 21, 22 million. But that will fluctuate as the settlement, which is 10 years in length, goes on. So that's the second part. And then the third part is kind of a restructured NCAA, where power conferences will have more control, will be able to create their own rules and probably enforce them. There'll probably be a new enforcement arm. There'll be some changes to some other kind of granular things, scholarship limits, roster, things like that.
So we know that the money's going to be coming in, Ross. Is that what you're saying? With all of these expansion of conferences, I saw that yesterday, now that the college football playoff will now expand its viewership opportunities, not just from ESPN, but now TNT will now hold a first-round matchup, I believe 2 first-round matchups in the first couple of years, and then they'll have quarterfinals, and we'll see where that goes along. But it just shows you now that college football is expanding viewership opportunities. That's more money, and now this money can now go into the pockets of the student athletes. But if I'm a volleyball player or water polo or soccer, am I entitled to what the football revenue brings in from these TV contracts? Or is this going to be something that the NCAA is still trying to figure out how to disperse these collective television contracts coming into each university?
That is a key issue.
Yes.
is how you distribute. If you hit the cap, if a school hits the cap around 20, say this round number 20 million, because of the federal Title IX law, which requires higher education and in education institutions to offer equal opportunity to men and women, do you have to split down the middle that 20 million? Does 10 million go to football and men's basketball, say, and then 10 million get spread out to women athletes? A lot of these women's sports, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, right, cost schools millions of dollars. They lose money. Most of this money, as you mentioned, is generated from TV contracts and ticket sales around football, in a little bit of men's basketball. So how do you do that? Do you follow the Title IX law? Are you required to follow the Title IX law? And do you split the payments? Or is there a way around this where you can give more of the money to the players whose sport generated, right? Which would be football and men's basketball. It is a key question in all of this. And so is these booster collectives. Do they continue outside of the university offering athletes money? And does that money count toward the cap? I don't think it will. So there's a way to potentially for schools to circumvent the cap by going outside with their booster collective. And there's a way to potentially circumvent Title IX by either not doing it or going outside as well. So a lot of questions still on the disbursement of the money to athletes.
Yahoo Sports college football writer Ross Dellenger joining the Rich Eisen Show with Kirk Morrison here filling in for Rich. I'm excited to get caught up on all this news because all this stuff is coming at you quick and you're like, I'm trying to dissect it. There's always a new story, a new lawsuit, this is and then finally I'm watching it. We're less than 100 days away from actually football kicking off, the college football season, unlike we've seen before, where now every network has their own sort of gimmick, I would call it, right? You have the SEC on ABC and the Big Ten on CBS and NBC. And then yesterday I saw the news of Fox Friday football. Like how confusing is it for us? Or is it something that you really have to sit down and grab the old TV guide, Ross, and start to mark our appointment television viewing for the weekend because our football is going to be over so many different networks.
So many different networks in so many different days, yes. Right? We got midweek major college midweek football, which we don't often have. You often see the MAC and other programs, the Sun Belt, Conference USA, these smaller leagues play during the middle of the week. But now you'll have Big Ten football on Friday. I think almost every Friday you may have a Big Ten football game on Fox, Friday night game. So that's going to be different to get used to. And then, of course, you move to Saturday, and the Big Ten has a lineup of a game on Fox right at noon, the big noon kickoff, a 3:30 game on NBC or CBS, and then NBC has the night game. And then you go to the SEC, right, and they're on ABC and ESPN. Big 12's on ESPN and Fox as well. So lots going on there. And even you throw in even the CW, which the ACC will have some games on the CW.
Yeah, I saw Washington State and Oregon State got some games on the CW as well. But it leads us to the countdown. July 19th, 2024 is a day that I've got circled on my calendar. I cannot wait. I feel like it's going to be the precursor to what's going to be an unbelievable college football season. But college football 2025, the video game on EA Sports, it's been a long time coming. They've had to get a lot of signatures, a lot of players on board, a lot of people involved in this. But I feel like this is going to be one of the biggest game releases we've seen in a very long time. The buzz has been there. I know you get the same information that we're all seeing. I can't wait for it to come out, but I feel like it's going to give us a better appreciation and more fandom for what we want to see come this fall when college football 2025 comes out. Ross, just your thoughts on the video game as it gets ready to be released in July.
Well, I'm really excited. I mean, I grew up playing the game, right? I mean, it was like the thing that we did in high school and college when we were supposed to be studying and going to class. We were playing college football. At that point it was I'm going to date myself. It was like 04 college football, 04 college football, 05. And so I'm pumped to see the video game. It's been a huge storyline, obviously the build up to this point, and it kind of encapsulates all of what we've been talking about when it comes to NIL and college athlete compensation, because the game obviously ended partly because of a ongoing O'Bannon court case against the NCAA for athlete compensation. And so the game ended back in 2014. So it's been a little over 10 years since we've had a new release of the game, and you can feel it through the college athletics world that people are excited.
Yeah, man, it's buzzing, man. I can't wait for it as well. But Ross, man, I appreciate the time. By the time we talk again, hopefully all these lawsuits will be settled. We can kind of clean the desk and get ready for an exciting college football season, man. Ross, I appreciate the time. Thanks for the knowledge today, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.